Is up, everybody? Happy Sunday evening to you. I hope that you're doing well and you enjoyed your day. I did a live stream last night talking about Black women, their style, their hair choice, right? I was questioning why so many men had such a problem with Black women choosing to wear their hairs either natural or with weave, right? And, the comment section was very interesting to me, right? And I noticed that, there were some men who they came into the chat and they were like, I don't really care. I don't really care how a woman chooses to wear her hair. Other dudes, obviously the beta dudes that obviously want to be women, they're upset because they can't wear hair weave and actually feel like a man. Those dudes, they kind of came into the chat and they're just kind of flexing their beta male emotion, their mean girl emotions on the chat. And I got to get this shirt redid. It says victim of white guilt tripping because these white liberals, they always like to put their guilt on you by trying to demean your character and make you feel sad about something. They're weird ass people, some of them. Not all of them, some of them. So this is my victim of white guilt tripping shirt. But I noticed in that chat we had a lot of men who were pretty objective. They said things like, I don't really care how a woman chooses to wear her hair. And automatically there were some of those demon men, they were like, you're simping, you're simping, you're simping. So if a man came in with an objective opinion or idea about the conversation that I was facilitating last night, they were accused of being a simp. And I hear this word quite a bit. You're simping, you're simping, you're simping over this, you're simping, you're simping. And it's always in the context of an objective or rational viewpoint on something. And I never understand why people would think that, oh, you're being a simpleton by not being on the bandwagon of our ignorant thinking, right? So I caught this live stream, I believe, that Anton Daniels did. And he's a YouTuber. I just kind of got on to Anton Daniels maybe a couple of months ago. Actually, one of my white clients, she was like, "Oh, I love the way you think, Angie. You should talk, or you should get on this millionaire morning show with Anton. About that this guy Anton Daniels do." So I looked up his show, and I like people who can say rational things. You know what I mean? I have zero problems with people saying, okay, this is a problem for the Black community. We need to address this problem. We need to mitigate this problem. I'm not one of those Black people that sit there and say, hey, you shouldn't talk about Black people. Black people have been victimized. No, there is a segment of Black America that has been conflated, broad stroke across all Black Americans, right? The poverty line Blacks, right? The ones with the cycles of bad behaviors and stuff. And these people have been broad stroked across all Black people. And there are certain mindsets too that are attributed to Black people. And some of those mindsets are fair and justifiable because many people live up to those mindsets, stereotypes, and projections, right? But then again, it's not fair to blanket everyone. I'll give you an example. I live out here in Detroit, and for Juneteenth, the Black Business Chamber, we did a roundtable of Black businesses, right? And the whole vibe, it was about me, it was over 200 of us in this the UBS building downtown, and the vibe was just everything I loved. The Black women, they were together, they were professional, there was no weird Pukisha stuff going on. And I actually posted a picture of our Juneteenth event on YouTube. So go back and you look at those beautiful Black prime people. right? You didn't see a black stereotype in there. You saw etiquette. You saw people with self control, men and women, collaborating, talking to each other about the state of business and how black businesses can hedge themselves from things to come, right? It was a very fruitful, productive luncheon, right? And it personified the segment of Black America that tends to be suppressed, when it comes to narrating us because they want to narrate these poverty line people. And there are some Black people that buy into the projections of Black people, right? But there are lots of them that are not. And again, I've said this in another video. They're never going to highlight the private sector Blacks. They're always going to give us these token type peoples that they have been paid to project negative Black stereotypes. But as much as it is the responsibility of Black people to call out the deficiencies, the defectors in the community, we also need to be calling out what's happening to our people, our community, and really try to do our best to combat things, right? In a way that we're not feeding into stereotypes that white supremacists want to hear us talking about. So there's a difference between talking about the problems of Black people and pandering about these usual suspect narrations about Black people to pander to white supremacists. And um, I'm kind of on that. Like Anton Daniels is kind of one of those to me. He's understood the sauce, right? He understands where he can get his tokens, right? And it's all, and some of these white people who love hearing Black people talk about Black people, narrate Black people in a stereotypical way, they eat that stuff up all day, right? But stereotypes are, they do exist for a reason, right? But a lot of the things that fuel stereotypes are non-black funded projections, right? So for example, you take a Sexy Red, right? She's not talented at all. She's not talented. Everybody knows Sexy Red is not talented, and she is not really she's not the most attractive things to me personally, right? You know, but they will take a Sexy Red from the poverty line and prop her up, right? And basically project that as what Black women are like, right? And they will over project her. Look at all the radio play organic artists, really good artists. They will never get the Sexy Red treatment if they're not acting like Sexy Red, right? So when we're talking about these stereotypes, right, we got to understand them from a couple of different lenses, right? It's those who live up to them. Where are their root causes, right? Who's funding, projecting them, right? And who's not living up to them, right? And so, as much as they want to project these stereotypes of Black people, it is our job to project the contrary, right? So if they say that Black people, they get together and they act like hooligans, it's our job to show a family reunion, a family gathering, Black people getting together, and we're doing things that are meaningful and civilized. So that's the way that you combat the stereotypes. But there are some Black people, they are not in it to combat the stereotypes. They're in it to fuel the stereotypes so that they can pander to non-Black people. So I caught this video that Anton Daniels posted, and this is just fair usage. And he always has a panel of Black people on there. And I get Black people talking about Black people problems, right? And he poses this question. I want you to listen to the question, and then I want you to listen to this brother's answer, and then I want you to listen to how Anton comes at this dude.
Do y'all think that Black women, in any way, shape, or form, whether it's a little bit or a lot of it or not at all, do y'all think that they get an unfair shake in the label of being combative or having a bad reputation?
And I want to give you some context to where he's coming from with this question. He's talking about Andrew Schultz. And recently, Andrew Schultz in a podcast, they got some backlash because they were talking about the Black woman effect. Now, the UK guys were talking about the black woman, in fact, in a positive way. Like, you get a black woman, she's going to Erica do you. Basically, you're going to be dressing like Common and Andre 3000, where you're going to be just dressing like an alien. You're going to go from a regular dude to an alien because she got that P power, right? So he was talking about how black women you get with a black woman, sometimes she'll change your style, right? Andrew Schultz doubled back with a statement, okay? And people want to, like, oh, he's a comedian. Jokes have punchlines, okay? I think people forget that. Jokes have punchlines. There's a difference between this just saying some statement, right, and making a joke. That dude was making a stereotypical statement. He was not making a joke, right? But Anton's talking about this conversation and people's backlash and people being too sensitive. And he's trying to set up the narrative, are black women that angry and abrasive?
or angry or whatever like that. Do y'all think that in any way, shape, or form that is somewhat unwarranted or it's an unjust stereotype or anything like that?
I think it depends on the demographic of women that you're talking about. So I think there are a bunch of subgroups within the black community. So that's why I'm like, I can't speak on all black women, but there are certain demographics that probably live up to that stereotype.
Now, that was a very intelligent answer that this guy just gave to him, because the answer that he provided to that question was absolutely true, right? When you're asking, do you feel like black women get a fair shake in the stereotype about them, right? This guy came in and he said, that's a hard question because, it really depends on the demographic of black woman. He's being intelligent about this. He's like, I don't want to broad stroke all black women. This question really depends on the demographic, because what he's saying is there are some black women that live up to the stereotypes of black women, absolutely, right? But there are some black women that don't live up to the stereotypes. And we're talking about the character and the emotional control stereotypes, not the weave and all that other stuff. We're talking straight character, emotional control. This brother's argument is that there are some black women that don't meet that stereotype. And you may know a black woman who has a milder temper. Maybe she's strong in her character, but she has self-control. She's not going off the deep end. And on the flip side, there are black women that I know, they get activated. They go from 0 to 100 really quickly, just like a lot of these black men do.
Just like black men. So I wouldn't label all black women under that.
But people generally speak to the majority.
So he says people generally speak to the majority. That's great, Anton. But my whole thing is we're having a conversation about black people, black women, right? And so what Anton is attempting to do is justify the views of the majority instead of correcting the majority, or at least introducing some intelligent thought here that, hey, even though this may be a perpetuated idea about black women, there are instances that we need to intelligently always consider, before we just start broad stroking, and this brother was very intelligent about that.
Mm-hmm. Or what's popular.
He's
or
like,
what's promoted in media.
See, and he's right. Anton's like, well, people typically go with the majority. And the dude was like, well, or what's popular or what is promoted in the media, right? Because the media has a set interest in narrating black people certain ways. They want to narrate black men as criminals, right? Unhinged, so that they can perpetuate a fear about black men. Same way with black women. They want to narrate us as we're all this all the time, blah blah blah. We're because that narration makes us undesirable to want to work with, right? Those types of narrations make black people undesirable people, so they need to narrate us that way, right? So it's up to us again to take control over the narratives, right? We should be rejecting these images of us, but we also should be painting the other. And there, so if you're saying, oh, there's an anomaly, then we need to highlight the anomalies, right? That's called getting control of your image. The Asians do it, the Jews do it, all kinds of groups do it. We need to be doing it as well. But it doesn't help when you have black looking people who are wanting to feed into these white supremacist ideas and thinking points about black people so that they can feel better about themselves and these dudes can get their tokens. Some of these people act as tokens and enemies to black people, and they try to guise it as if, oh, I'm just calling out the truth. I'm just telling it like it is. Some of these people are double talking demons.
Both can be true, but
I guarantee you, I could go on YouTube right now and find a 10-minute video, 20-minute video of black women being belligerent to other men, specifically black men. That doesn't speak to every single black man. If it doesn't apply to you, then don't worry about it. Yeah. Just laugh, and if you don't think it's funny, don't laugh.
But I don't think people should make general, because even when I've seen women make general statements about black men, I'm like, what category or what subgroup of black men are you talking?
He's absolutely. This is an intelligent black man that is on the mic. You should not generalize people. You shouldn't generalize black men. You shouldn't generalize black women. I want to run it back what he said.
Women make general statements about black men. I'm like, what category or what subgroup of black men are you talking about?
Absolutely. And I'm always challenging people to be specific. Be specific as to which segment of black America you're talking about. Because people are like, oh, black people, they always, doing this. Or I'm like, which segment? And they be like, huh? I'm like, what segment? Because what you're saying about black people, I haven't seen it in the upper middle class. I haven't seen it in just the fading middle class. So which segment are you talking about? And they're always talking about the behaviors of the poverty line. So to this brother's point, you do need to challenge people, which segment, right? And then you also need to understand how to look at people and read people, right? Because you can tell by the presentation of somebody how they articulate a lot of times what environments they're coming from, right? Not every black person in this country come from the same environment. Matter of fact, I would challenge that us Midwest black women are not the same as your West Coast black women, and we're not the same as your East Coast black women. Black women across the United States are completely different. And you may see these stereotypes show up across the United States, but I bet you they're more prominent in the poverty line. And people need to be intelligent enough to know that when you're having conversations about black people. I'm always challenging people to be very specific.
So, but let me tell you something. That doesn't bother me. Because
it doesn't bother you.
Well, no. I'm okay with them making that assessment because it doesn't mean that I fit it, and it doesn't mean that it's not true either, right? Mm-hmm. If you say that, well, black men are behind most other groups when it comes to that financial significance, A, I'm not going to be offended because I'm not broke, but B, it doesn't make it any less true, right?
Absolutely.
So just because there's anomalies or just because there's standouts doesn't mean that as a group that we need to do better. If I see a bunch of young guys with poo shicey masks up down the street, don't fucking tell me not to stereotype. They look like jack boys. And self-preservation, stereotyping is necessary in order for self-preservation. So why?
Well, first of all, please understand the difference between stereotyping people and profiling them, right? Stereotyping people and profiling them are not the same thing. I mean, they could have some cross, but you're taking known bias. Your stereotypes are really about you're making judgments based off of something that you don't know about somebody. You're making assumptions about somebody based off of certain perpetuated ideas or behaviors. Whereas when you're profiling, to me, you're kind of looking, it's more of an observation thing. You're kind of seeing if certain things manifest, patterns show up, right? Before you really kind of make judgments about a person, right? I don't think that profiling people and stereotyping them are the same because stereotypes are rooted in some known bias. Whereas profiling, you're more observing and collecting information about that person to make an assessment. So I don't know. I don't really agree with this.
I'm not here to be politically correct. I don't give a fuck about what people think.
Yes,
I
you
only
do.
care about, whether it's accurate. And if it's not accurate, then change my mind. But stereotypes come from somewhere. There's some type of truth in there where it comes
Well,
from.
intelligent people know that stereotypes come from projections by the media. And projections grab projections by the poverty line. We know where stereotypes come from. So if we're going to talk about stereotypes, we need to be intelligent about it, right? We don't want to be talking about stereotypes to justify why we should be doing it, right? Why we should be perpetuating it, right? We want to be intelligent. Stereotypes are bad. They're bad, especially the ones about black people, because they're rooted in white supremacy projections about us for decades. And yeah, they've leveraged black people to project these things onto us, but nevertheless, stereotypes are typically rooted in the projections by white supremacist structures that they want to see about, that they want to show about black people. Stereotypes are in the news. Stereotypes are in music videos. Stereotypes are everywhere that is funded by non-black people that but they use black people.
Now, I'm thinking that the women may have a different perspective because they are women and they have a different experience. But Dennis, I think you simping tonight.
So he's telling Dennis, the guy who's been saying these rational things, that he's simping. Right? Now, I feel like Dennis was sounding very intelligent, right? Because obviously Anton needs Dennis going all in on black women, right? He like, I really feel like that's kind of where he's going. He needs Dennis to justify these stereotypes about black women. And for him, he's not even trying to really give any room for the instances where these might not be true. Dennis is offering the instances where, hey, we got to be careful about these generalizations about black women, right? Because there are instances where it's not true. We got to look at the demographic of the woman and where she's coming from. All of these are ways in which intelligent people would think about a conversation or a question like that. But Dennis is a simp, according to Anton.
Simping tonight.
So I think you're simping tonight.
No. In what regard?
I think
let's have the conversation. Or are you going to ask him first? Because I love to have the conversation.
Let's talk.
Okay. What regard am I simping?
Because I don't think that you're coming from a genuine place. I think that you say things that are right, but you generalize it so much to where you can't really be debated. But at the same time, it always comes from a feminist perspective.
Okay, so that was the bag of garbage that he just told Dennis. Okay, he's saying that. Let me go back because it sounds like really just. It sounds retarded to me.
You say things that are right.
You say things that are right. So this is what I'm saying. It's like people are labeling people who are bringing rational talking points to the table as simps, right? Listen to this man, because Anton needs these men, these black men, all in on black women. He needs these black men saying that no, there is no room for black women to have a pass on these stereotypes about them, right? There's no room. Right? He's saying that, hey, stereotypes come from a reason. It's a general rule of the population, blah, blah, blah. And so for him, it's like these stereotypes are basically true, right? There's no room to concede to something else, right?
Some type of truth in there where it comes from. Now, I'm thinking that the women may have a different perspective because they are women and they have a different experience. But Dennis, I think you're simping tonight.
He thinks the man is simping.
In what regard?
I think
let's have the conversation. Or are you going to ask him first? Because I love to have the conversation.
Let's talk.
Okay. What regard am I simping?
Because I don't think that you're coming from a genuine place. I think that
the dude looks mad genuine when he's saying we should not generalize women because depending on the demographic of the woman and where she comes from, she may not fit those generalizations. So he's saying that we should have some instance in which we're not just allowing these stereotypes about black women to fly, right? But Anton is like, no, you're simping right now. You are simping.
That you say things that are right.
You say things that are right.
But you generalize it so much to where you can't really be debated, but at the same.
So he said, you say things that are right, but you generalize it in a way that you can't be debated. You asked Dennis, Anton, if there was any leeway for these generalizations and stereotypes of black women. And Dennis says, well, yeah, you got to be careful, right? I challenge people to which demographic of black women are you talking about, right? Because, people are different everywhere you go, right? I don't think that's simping. I don't think that that is simping. I think that that is a rational point to put on the table, right? But I noticed that it doesn't matter where the conversation is going, and this is beyond antondaniels, but if somebody is introducing a rational point into a conversation, they get accused of simping, right? So why are these people being accused of simping? Because they don't want to go along with your demonic train of thinking, and they're trying to go more towards a pragmatic way of thinking, and that's not what you're on. So now you're accusing them of simping. I don't get anything that this man has said, and I want to go back to everything that Dennis said, because I just don't think that
That's
Dennis.
stereotype. They look like jack boys. And self-preservation, stereotyping is necessary in order for self-preservation. So
no profiling is
why wouldn't
necessary
I?
for self-preservation.
I'm not here to be politically correct. I don't give a fuck.
You
about
can't be politically correct.
I
It's
only
very
care about,
obvious. You can't even be socially correct
whether it's
because you're
accurate,
not facilitating a good
and if it's not
conversation
accurate,
right
then
now.
change my mind. But stereotypes come from somewhere. There's some type of truth
Yeah,
in there where it comes
intelligent
from.
people know
Now,
that
I'm
they
thinking that
come
the women
from
may have a different
repetitive
perspective
pay
because they are women
projections.
and they have a different experience. But Dennis, I think you simping tonight.
Simping? No.
Yes.
In what regard?
I think
Let's have the conversation. Or are you going to ask him first? Because I love to have the conversation.
Let's talk.
I want to
Okay,
hear this
what
brown
regard am I-
skin sister because she looked like she just been itching to say something. Where you at? Let me see if I can get you talking, girl. Because she just, like, she looked like she got crabs or something the way she just waiting to talk. Like, See, here you go. Let me see. Did we ever get to the brown skin girl talking? Hang on.
My husband had no.
We don't care about your husband, honey. That's between y'all. Let me see if the brown skin girl started talking. Cause she's beautiful, by the way. This is a beautiful girl. Okay, so this is Anton and Dude going back and forth. I thought they were gonna get to the broads.
The culture is still the most, and it's like, okay, we know that. Like, without even mentioning it, we know that there's not 100% of everything anywhere. But when we speaking in general, I think, and I don't know if your girl's sitting next to you or what, but when we speaking in general, we speak to the majority, not the minority. But we could use ourselves.
But why are we speaking in general? That's the problem, Anton. You are choosing to have a conversation about black women in a generalized way. You want to speak in general, and this brother is saying we shouldn't be speaking about black women in a generalized way because a lot of these narratives and these projections about black women, they're not across the board. They're not synonymous with every single black woman. And I want to go back in the very beginning because Anton, I don't know why he showed these black men in the very beginning of this podcast that he did, but these guys were on the Pivot podcast and they were actually talking about Andrew Schultz's comments about black women, right? And I want you to hear what they're saying.
UK, and it does like relationships, they read tweets and about stories. They were sitting with Andrew Schultz and they started talking about the black woman effect. And they were mostly talking about like in the Travis Kelce case, right? The fade, the beard.
They were not
stuff
dissing
like
black women at all.
Andrew Schultz
Those UK
said it's a
dudes
defense
were not
mechanism.
dissing black
and
women.
He said, because you might get beat. And he also said that some of what they did was
Andrew Schultz came in with the comment. It wasn't a joke, right? Jokes have punchlines, right? He came in with a generalized comment about black women.
Was in protection because they were always complaining.
To speak on black women like that, that's all I was raised around. That's all I've ever dated. That's all I know. That's all all I've been married to. Obviously, only been married once. But there are certain things you can't do. And so with Schultz, it doesn't have to be combative and fighting and getting up acting crazy, but I think those dudes should have pushed back. I think maybe their culture, the European black dude culture, might be different than ours.
I talked
but
about
when
this
I
in my
did
last
see
video.
it upset me because the whole thing about argumentative black women and all this stuff, I think it's a stigma that people put on black women, put on my black sisters, put on my wife, put on my black family members that I don't like.
Right.
I like a strong woman. If some bitch ass dudes can't deal with a strong woman and they say that's argumentative or combative, then go get you a weak woman, go get you a do girl. But that's what I'm saying. If you're saying that, I'll push back and say, you don't want a strong woman. You don't want somebody that can run things. You want somebody that can push back. You want somebody that's opinionated. You just want a yes woman, and I can't deal with nobody with a yes woman. So I do think it was cultural when I saw it and saw them European dudes. I think they're built different than American black dudes are. And I don't know how y'all feel about it. And I do think I felt a certain way about them disrespecting the black women that I love and that I know.
So, I mean, so you got some strong black men out there, and they are adamant about protecting their sisters. They will not stand for people of other cultures talking about their sisters. I love these brothers. All flowers to these kings for sure, right? And I respect brothers like this. I really do. They deserve the reverence. They deserve the respect, right? Because too many black women are out here feeling like they need to protect themselves because we got a lot of buck dancing black men on the mic, right? Just putting them in that position, right? These black women hating men, and I don't like it, but check that out. Are black women that angry, abrasive? Was Andrew Schultz wrong for making jokes about the culture? I personally think Anton Daniels is a grifter, a puppet. I expect for people like that to, constantly narrate black people because that's what some of these white supremacists on the conservative side who is building his channel need him to do. Who was that we were listening to? So this is on the Anton Daniels. He did a podcast, I guess some panel, and he goes, and he's talking about Andrew Schultz, and he's in his dialogue. This brother Dennis, and I'll run it back so you can kind of hear. I don't feel like Dennis was simping when he answered this question.
I felt
Let me go back.
Black, white, he don't give a damn.
Yeah, man.
Right. So these black
Depends on
dudes,
the
these, and
demographic of
for the
women.
record, like I'm looking at these brothers, right? All right, and this is just no shade at all, right? Because they want to talk about black women and our weave. Let's talk about some of these black men and profiling this dude that's standing up for Andrew Schultz and thinking that he's not wrong. Looking at this light skinned Chico DeBarge looking dude, he got 2 earrings in his ear, right? So I'm automatically thinking bitch behaviors. So I already expect for a black man like him to be on board with talking crap about black women, okay? Like he didn't even just got 2 earrings, they dangling, all right? We got to understand these brothers, some of them. Now let's look at Dennis, this rational brother. Yeah, the brother got on the do-rag. I don't know if he got braids on underneath that, but he looked like King Kong consciousness, all right? He looked like he could be Dr. Umar's little brother, all right? This brother, say what you want, right? He ain't got no earrings in his ear, none of that stuff, right?
That you're talking about. So
let's go on. So this is Dennis.
Women is sex. Do y'all think that black women, in any way, shape, or form, whether it's a little bit or a lot of it or not at all, do y'all think that they get an unfair shake in the label?
And I'm looking at Anton Daniels right now, and again, he's like what I was talking about last night. Like no shade on people. I don't try to make people feel bad, but this is not a commodity to black women. So I can tell, I can see why a dude that looks like this would have very negative things to say about
I think there are a bunch of
black women because the type of black women that he probably want are not checking for him. Let me run this back so y'all can hear Dennis. But this is just my profile. He's not pulling the type of black women that he wants without all the money. He has to flex his money. Anton Daniels cannot ever be broke, right? Because he's not going to get the women that he wants because he doesn't meet the attractive spectrum, right? So these type of dudes, right, they're going to have things, negative things to say about black women all day because they need something to keep them on a higher frequency.
Or angry or whatever like that. Do y'all think that in any way, shape, or form that is somewhat unwarranted or is an unjust stereotype or anything like that?
I think it depends on the demographic of women that you're talking about. So I think there are a bunch of subgroups within the black community. So that's why I'm like, I can't speak on all black women, but there are certain demographics that probably live up to that stereotype, just like black men. So I wouldn't label all black women under that.
What was simping about that response? I don't understand why that was considered a simping response. It was very intelligent. It was very intelligent, in my opinion, because when we're talking about profiling, stereotyping people, that is an intelligent consideration that you got to be careful. We don't want to be running around generalizing. What Anton is doing is pushing generalizations, justifying them. This brother's like, you really don't want to do this. That's not simping. That is intelligent.
But people generally speak to the majority.
Mm-hmm. Or what's popular. Or what's promoted in media.
Ignorant people speak to the majority, right? Ignorant people do that. Ignorant people can't separate, anomalies from anything that they would consider a majority. But even with the majority, that would be subjective. Because if you go to, like, let's just say West Bloomfield, Michigan, right, where you have these upper echelon blacks, right, there's certain behaviors of those type of blacks that you're not going to see on the east side of Detroit. So, generalizations, you don't want to generalize. It's not intelligent. Intelligent people don't generalize. They don't even encourage generalizations.
But I guarantee you, I could go on YouTube right now and find a 10-minute video, 20-minute video of black women being belligerent to other men, specifically black men. That doesn't speak to every single black man. This
dude sounds saucy to me. He's rolling his eyes. I can make him, bro. We know why you need these generalizations.
And if it doesn't apply to you, then don't worry about it.
Yeah.
Just laugh, and if you don't think it's funny, don't laugh.
But I don't think people should make general, because
he even making, like, bro, you saucy.
I've seen women make general statements about black men. I'm like, what category or what subgroup of black men are you talking about?
Right. So this guy is intelligent because he's like, when I hear these generalizations, even if it's about black men, I am man enough to challenge. What subgroup are you talking about? Dennis is an intelligent black man. Obviously, Anton is running the show, so he wants to seem like he's the superior of thought, but this dude is just literally simping on white supremacist talking points about black people.
Hey, but let me tell you something. That doesn't bother me. Because no, I'm okay with them making that assessment because it doesn't mean that I fit it, and it doesn't.
So here's the thing: he's saying that he's okay with people making generalizations about black men because as long as he doesn't fit it, right, it's no big deal to him. But at the same time, there's a lot of generalizations about black women that I don't fit. But at the same time, I feel the need to correct the generalizations and call out the fact that this is not a true statement of all black women, right? Because it's not fair for the ones that this little generalization does not apply to. And we're talking about narrations. We're talking about perpetuated narrations, stereotypes that have been perpetuated for decades, right? And so if we as black people, if we're trying to get a hold of our narrative and control over our narrative, we cannot afford people like Anton Daniels constantly narrating us with these type of, like, basically making it okay to generalize us, right? Like, I really wish that people can learn to talk about black people intelligently,
Doesn't mean that
or
it's
don't
not
talk
true
about us at
either,
all.
right? If you say that, well, black men are behind most other groups when it comes to that financial significance, A, I'm not going to be offended because I'm not broke. But B, it doesn't
Because
make
you
it any
bug
less
dancing for
true,
white
right?
supremacists.
So just because there's anomalies or just because there's standouts doesn't mean that as a group that we need to do better. If I see a bunch of young guys with poo shicey man.
So what you do is, like, if you're, because, like, for example, I can take all the black men that I know in my life, and they don't live up to the stereotypes of black men that are perpetuated in the media, right? Whether they're a factory worker or something, these men get up, they go to work, they do the thing. They're working dudes, right? You know what I mean? And they don't live up to these narrations. Now, would they dress like, maybe they dress like, a little gangster because they like that music, right? Even though they may be personifying that, okay, he got a hoodie on and the jeans or whatever, he looks like Trayvon, right? I'm not going to automatically think that that dude is a threat, unless he just walking up on me on some shisty stuff, right? I don't let anybody walk up on me, whether you black, white, Puerto Rican, or Haitian. I need my space. I need my feet. You know what I mean? But the idea is that there have been stereotypes about black people that have been perpetuated. It's our job to take control over these stereotypes by showing the other side of the stereotype that is just not always perpetuated. This dude is saying, hey, people believe what they see about people. But Anton, be intelligent. These projections are white funded most of the time, right? These people aren't going into the everyday reality of black people and really seeing how black people function. Because if they did, they wouldn't see all the Pukishas. They can go over to a black person's family's house and a whole bunch of them, and you may not see no Pukishas. You just may see different professional people talking about life, right? They are conflating every black person with the ghetto folks. And the ghetto folks are a small percentage of the black population. I'm not sure what this guy is talking about, the big white boogeyman, because we talking about people talking about white supremacists talking points, black people getting their tokens, right? So I'm not sure what this dude is talking about, right? Some white people, they hear the word white people, white supremacists, and they automatically internalize. Get yourself together, sir. Get yourself together. We talking about black people over here anyways.
Up down the street, don't fucking tell me not to stereotype. They look like jack boys. And self-preservation, stereotyping is necessary in order for self-preservation. So why wouldn't listen, I'm not here to be politically correct.
So what Anton wants to do is just basically, I want to be able to justify stereotyping black women, living up to the, being able to enable these stereotypes, because I'm not trying to be politically correct. I'm just trying to get my white supremacist tokens. And nothing gets a black person white supremacist tokens like talking crap about black people all the time. He's like a subtle Brandon Tatum, right? If you guys see that dude, Brandon Tatum, right? He's always narrating and trying to justify why black people are wrong and all this stuff like that. He's like one of those. And the white supremacists love people like this because they're going to find something negative to say about black people, a narration that they're going to want to see all the time.
Give a fuck about what people think. I only care about, whether it's accurate. And if it's not accurate, then change my mind.
So apparently Antondaniels thinks that the stereotypes about all black women is accurate, and that we deserve the reputation that we get. This is what I'm reading from this guy, right? You got one brother who's saying, no, we shouldn't generalize our sister. You got another guy saying, it's okay. You should do it. This is what everybody see anyways, right? And we should just accept what everybody see. But who's showing everybody what they see? Who's funding that, right? Non-blacks. Non-blacks. What's going on, Cyber? What's going on? I am stressed out sometimes because I'm tired of these buck dancing black folks talking about black folks, right? Trying to get their white supremacist tokens and pennies and stuff. It's like, just stop. I've never, ever seen so many self-hating blacks in my life. I've never seen it. It's almost like some of these people, it's like the go along, get along gang, but it's like, I can't explain it. Like, I cannot, is it like, if you can't beat them, join them? And their way of joining them is, we just got to narrate we got to feed these stereotypes about black people. It's like, that is some of these people's job. It's like, we're not here to correct them, address them, or anything like that. We have to feed them. We have to enable them, right? It's crazy to me. It is really, really crazy. It's crazy to me. Who is an excuse? Everybody's talking about excuse. Do you know what an excuse means? There's no excuses that were put on the table. Why are you low comprehension people coming in here talking nonsense? Talking on those normal conservative talking points. Black people make excuses. See, this is why people like antondaniels are not useful, because then they enable the white folks to come in here and talk about black people like they just know about us because they heard another black person say some stuff about us, right? It's crazy to me. Like, all the white supremacists that are in denial are in here. There's no white supremacy. You better go on X and meet your folks and see how they really talking about black people, because you either oblivious or you are just, you lying. White supremacy is alive and well in the United States. Matter of fact, Donald Trump brought a lot of them into the political process, and they have been emboldened to talk some cash stuff about black people, and they have even leveraged black people. So, you guys, ain't nobody crying. Do you see any tears here, honey? No, you don't. No, you don't. And see, it's always the dumb, low IQ white people that want to come in talking about their nonsense. We're not going to talk about what you want to talk about, right? Right? Another white supremacist. Read Thomas Sowell, honey. Don't play with me. I probably read more than you do. Don't play with me. See, you white supremacists, y'all gonna need to get y'all wake-up call when it comes to black people. Because some of these black white supremacists got y'all so conditioned. They got y'all so conditioned that we black people aren't doing stuff, that we all vote for Democrats, right? You on a dummy train, honey. Don't talk to me about my intelligence, and don't tell me what to read. You need to read Thomas Sowell. I bet you can't put up a Thomas Sowell book. Let me put up a few of them for you, baby, so you understand. Don't ever come at me about no Thomas Sowell. You read Thomas Sowell. You need to read Thomas Sowell. Some of you people are so dumb. Like, the dumbest, Trump literally brought the dumbest, ugliest white people into the political process. And now they just think that they just, whew. King Yoder, you probably need to put a wig on. You should probably put a wig. You should probably put a wig on, King Yoder. You should probably put a wig on and take off those female panties, because only bitch like men go back and forth with women. Real men don't have time for that. But, anyways, let me know what you guys think about this. I do believe that some black people on YouTube, their job is to be popcorn to the ugliest segment of white America. This is not to all white people. White folks that are cool, you guys know who you are. You're not the inner bigots. But people like him, he fuels the ugly white people, right? The actually low IQ white people that Trump brought into the political process. And these people need to be validated that all black people are less intelligent, low IQ, right? And so they need people like Anton Daniels, Candace Owens, Brandon Tatum to make them feel better about themselves, right? And, obviously black people aren't accountable. So some of these comments that I'm saying am like usual suspect conservative talking points about black people. Be accountable. Take off the weave. It's like get off the bandwagon of ignorance and actually think for yourself. Because you're spouting out usual suspect talking points. And I've already heard them before. So you're beneath me. But anyways, you guys have a wonderful day. Thank you for those who have checked in, the intelligent people who can facilitate conversation that is pragmatic and not inflammatory. We love our intelligent Americans of all colors. We can't stand the dumb ones, right? Whether you're black or white, if you're a dummy like some of these people talking about, you need to read Thomas Sowell because the black conservatives are all on Thomas Sowell and they think that all black people have never heard of Thomas Sowell. They think that every black person, let me like what I do. This is the third Thomas Sowell book. Don't play with me. You white supremacists better know what black person y'all talking to. Don't come up in my chat. Don't come up in my chat. Ever. Don't you ever. Don't you ever. Right? I will run circles around a lot of you people in the debate. I will run circles around you. Stop playing with black Americans. Stop playing with black Americans. Anyways, you guys have a wonderful day. Bye.